We recognize that CVUUS gathers on land seized from the Western Abenaki people by European colonizers. We respect the Abenaki's spiritual relationship to the land and waters of the Champlain Valley. We are committed to building a peaceful and more just relationship with them and to promoting knowledge about their history and culture. Good morning and happy Easter. Whoever you are, whatever your story, wherever the source of your faith, you are welcome here. We at the Champlain Valley Unitarian Universalist Society invite you to settle in. Whether it's your first time here or you've been away for a while and are back, welcome. If you are joining us here in the sanctuary, welcome. If you are with us on Zoom, welcome. If you are new here, we invite you to sign our guest book in the lobby, or if you are with us on Zoom, look down in the chat and find our virtual guest book. In either place, you may introduce yourself and sign up to receive our monthly newsletter. My name is Martha Fulda, and aren't the flowers gorgeous? We are told that this is a peace bouquet, especially arranged for these times in our world when we particularly need it. I am a member of our congregation and your worship associate today. Our settled minister, the Reverend Barnaby Feeder, is on sabbatical until August. And we welcome back for this morning's service our Minister Emerita, the Reverend Johanna Nichols. With today's service titled Easter, Make of Yourself a Light. Welcome back home, Johanna. We invite you to stay for our social hour following worship. Those on site can gather downstairs in the fellowship hall. Those online can still gather on Zoom. In this very busy congregation, we offer numerous pathways to connection between Sundays. Several such opportunities are detailed in your order of service. Please read them. Here are a few highlights. Next week is Blue Jeans Sunday, where we work together after the service on our grounds and buildings, so come prepared to get messy. We'll mark Earth Day with our guest, Melody Brooke, that morning with Abenaki artists and activists, followed by our congregational conversation during social hour. Pizza will be provided. Many thanks this morning go out to our choir and musical guests, Jonathan March and Beth Scrambling, who tell me they've just been married. And Abby Sessions, Rich Wolfson, Richard Hopkins, Steve Butterfield, and others for technical support. Our flower co-op for seasonal arrangements, and everyone who's helped Mike Greenwood and Alan Moore set up and usher and greet and oversee safety and sound and coffee hour. Whew. And a note that there will be another blood drive this Tuesday here, so please help stack chairs along the edges after the service. Now we will have an update on our annual canvas.
Don't need the blocks. Hi, everybody. I'm Hannah Sessions. I'm here to represent the board who have undertaken the canvas this year in our theme of creating ripples to amplify love in our world. So I know this congregation loves skits, and we have fallen short in that regard this year. Until now, we have designed a miniature interactive skit, which will act as a collective drum roll to reveal our up-to-date Canvas numbers. So at this point, I call up my able assistant, Hayden Bernhardt, senior in high school, graduate of CVUUS RE programs from birth, and lots of snacks down at snack hour as well, as you can tell. So what I want us to do is, when we think about ripples, and this was a very conscious theme on the board, we just want to think about the energy that we put in is amplified out into the world. So as Hayden walks slowly down the aisle, I would ask, as he passes your row, to clap or stomp your feet or raise your hands, or except not with your voice, make any sound, clap, snap, and we'll feel the energy radiate through the room. So we'll start up here. Thank you. Oh, that's great. I think we can all feel it. So the numbers slide. Well, I'll ruin the surprise, but the great news is everyone's pledges are up this year, which is amazing. And it's just been a really wonderful experience to be a part of this. So we have 75% of our pledge units have responded, so that's 87 pledge units out of 116. And we are 85% towards our goal. So really thank you all so much for your kind generosity when there's so many worthy causes. I really feel great about the work that we do. So Mary is going to be downstairs today in case you haven't been swept up by the ripple canvas, and you might be hearing from someone in the next couple weeks as we really wrap things up. So thank you again.
And now to lead us into worship, here are words from Gretchen Haley, The Bright Thread of Hope. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Bring your doubt, your skepticism, your downright confusion, even your bitterness. But in the midst of all these, in the center, wrap your tender fingers around that still bright thread of hope. Feel in your heart that still steady hunger for something more, the vision we glimpse every day in the rising sun, across the foothills, the light that spreads across the face of the one we love, the look of knowing all there is to know, and still loving life, loving us, just as it is, just as we are, for this hour. We come to celebrate, to praise, to give thanks, to refuse to give up, to steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. Come, let us worship together. And now please join me in reading together the words for the chalice lighting in your order of service. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
No, I got it. All right, my friends, so, how many of you teach or have taught? How many of you have planned a lesson that completely, you see where I'm going here? Right, you're like, I don't normally even use tech, but I have this really great idea. I'm gonna do like the entire thing and it's gonna be super interactive and really cool. So here we are. And that's okay. So I'm doing a book. I do want you to just be able to see what the main character looks like so that at least you have her in your mind. So I'm going to do a quick sweep around so you can see her. So this is a book about a naked mole rat, as is typical at Easter. Naked mole rat stories. Okay, let me just find a good one. She has, how many of you have ever had braces? This is going to age you. How many of you ever had orthodontic headgear? Yeah, fun times, right? So Sweetie, the main character, also has orthodontic headgear. So here we go. I'm just going to quickly go around and then I'll launch into it. Okay, so the Buddha said, make of yourself a light, which is sometimes very hard to do, especially when you're younger. But this is a story about a naked mole rat who very much made of herself a light and really knew who she was, and no matter what, let her light shine. So here we go. So you kind of need to imagine her face like that. She's just like really super hopeful. So Sweetie was awkward, even for a naked mole rat. Please note that naked mole rats are born without fur, but they love clothes. So the illustrator is grateful for this because it lets the book not be inappropriate. Her own grandmother called her a little square peg. Well, aren't you Grandma's little square peg? Huh? Sweetie didn't know exactly what that meant, but she did know that she didn't always fit in. Sweetie, yay! You guys are awesome. They persevered. Ah, there she is. Beautiful. All right, so keep going up until the picture where they're all holding the dolls. It might just be two more. Sure. All right, here we go. Sweetie could be intense. My doll's name is Ellie. She likes cupcakes. My doll is David. My grandma gave him to me. This is Sunshine. She wants to be a doctor. Who's your doll, Sweetie? This is Warrior Princess Zorna, friend of the friendless, destroyer of evil, lover of chocolate beet cake with cream cheese frosting. Her favorite color is aubergine, and my mom made her for me. And people found her hobbies a bit bizarre. Would you like to come over to my house and help me identify fungi? No, thank you. Occasionally, Sweetie did things that others had a hard time comprehending, like the day she gave her book report through interpretive dance. What book is this? There were times when Sweetie wondered what it would be like to be someone else. Someone like Deb. Deb always said the right thing and had stylish friends. Best of all, she had beautiful hair. Sweetie wanted hair like Deb's. She thought maybe she should try a wig. Ugh, feels itchy. Then there were times when Sweetie just felt like being Sweetie. And it's a little hard to tell, but in her bedroom, she has a lot of mushroom things. So there's mushroom posters and a mushroom lamp, because mushrooms are so cool. The best days were when Aunt Ruth visited. Aunt Ruth understood Sweetie perfectly. She didn't think Sweetie's hobbies were weird. Really? Not a single one. Sweetie and her aunt loved going through old family photo albums. Sweetie especially liked the pictures of her mom and her aunt when they were her age. On her most recent visit, Aunt Ruth talked about how she was called a square peg when she was young. Sweetie was starting to understand what that meant. Aunt Ruth said that being different was one of the best things about her life, and that if you stayed true to yourself, you'd find your people. That made Sweetie think, were there really people out there for her? How would they recognize her? How would she recognize them? Was there a secret handshake she'd have to learn? She really hoped there was a secret handshake. Sweetie wondered how many times she'd been close to one of her people and not known it. What if she stepped it up a notch? Would her people be able to spot her more easily? My name is Sweetie. I like dancing, mushrooms, and rainy days. You too need to find your people. Maybe we're a match. Flyers are available. Or would she just seem desperate? For now, she'd trust Aunt Ruth, continue to do her favorite things, and be herself. And maybe she'd try a couple of new hobbies just for fun. Very nice, Sweetie. Whoa. After all, being Sweetie wasn't so bad. Oh, they're beautiful. In fact, it could be pretty awesome. Well, aren't you a fuzzy little caterpillar? And who knew when someone else pretty awesome might come along? Oh my gosh, isn't that the cutest little caterpillar? My name is Sandy. Your shirt is wonderful. I wouldn't mind having a shirt with a mushroom on it. I love mushrooms. My favorite is Gyromitra esculenta. It looks like a brain. Hi, Sandy. My name's Sweetie. Would you like to learn a secret handshake? Yes, thank you. Would you like to learn a secret handshake? Okay. I happen to know one. So, if you want, turn to a neighbor. You can follow along. After this, please do not put your hands in your mouth. Okay, there's 3 parts to it, so I'll talk you through it, and then we'll just do it. So, part 1 is just a shake, right? So it's a shake. Part 2 is like you just get the fingers, right? And then 3, the coolest part, obviously, is you go from here to like flutter, flutter, flutter. Yeah? Okay, so we'll do that twice more. So I'm going to talk you through it, and then the third will be silent. So shake, hook, flutter. So now, like, oh, look, I found my friend. So you can feel free to tell others about the handshake. It's really a not so secret handshake. We don't really have secret handshakes here. And now it is the time for our offering, when we celebrate the community that we do have that has many handshakes or air shakes or elbow nubs or whatever. And each month we share half of our offering with an organization that we believe is doing great work in the world and trying to make things better. This month, the group we're sharing with is Living Lands and Water. The group helps with the protection, the preservation, and the restoration of the nation's major rivers and their watersheds. They're the only industrial strength river cleanup organization like this in the world. And what is amazing is they are 12 people. They're 12 people who spend like 9 months a year living together on a boat doing this work, which is really pretty amazing. So when you send money, you're probably directly not only helping the rivers, but helping these 12 people have like ice cream sandwiches and the things they need to sustain the hard work. Warm socks. So please place your offerings in the basket up front. You can do it now in a minute. You can do it at the end. If you need help, you can just wave and I'll come get it from you. And folks who are joining us on Zoom, it's up on your screen. Please give as generously as you are able. Thank you.
We all have times in our lives full of joy and full of concern. In our congregation, we often share those times during worship services via yellow cards. Today we have one yellow card, and this is from Jordan Young. As a relatively low-profile queer person, I feel comfortable and supported in Vermont. Then events like the murder of Fern Feather, a fellow Vermont queer person, the attacks by Fox News on the teaching of diversity in the Burlington schools, and other less publicized attacks on our public institutions. These remind me that even in Vermont, people who identify as LGBTQIA are not safe. I've been upset by this all week, he says. And to Jordan, we send our concerns too. Now, for the rest of us who haven't shared anything, and in the spirit of deep sharing, please hear these words by Mary Oliver entitled The Buddha's Last Instruction.
Make of yourself a light, said the Buddha before he died.
I think of this every morning as the east begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness and send up the first signal, a white fan streaked with pink and violet, even green.
An old man, he lay down between two solid trees, and he might have said anything, knowing it was his final hour.
The light burns upward. It thickens and settles over the fields.
Around him, the villagers gathered and stretched forth to listen.
Even before the sun itself hangs disattached in the blue air, I am touched everywhere by its ocean of yellow waves.
No doubt he thought of everything that had happened in his difficult life.
And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed, yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value.
Slowly beneath the branches, he raised his head. He looked into the faces of that frightened crowd. Gosh, I'm not sure anything more needs to be said after that. That was really beautiful. Thank you. Okay, here we go. I was looking at these beautiful stoles that the choir is wearing this morning, and I could see Marilyn singing in the choir. Marilyn Humphrey loved color and she loved flair, and she volunteered at Neat Repeats so that she could be there, when the good stuff came in. And she was always just really marked out. I mean, she had a real flair, and we really were inspired by her couture. Marilyn died in March of 2000 of leukemia in her 50s, and she left 2 sons, Todd and Jay. And appreciating her relationship with this congregation, they left a donation. They made a donation to the choir, and the choir decided to make these stoles. And they say, Marilyn. They're a stained glass window pattern, and I really feel that they bring a presence. Thank you. So, I'm really bursting to tell you something this morning that I just heard on the radio this morning that's been puzzling me for a long time, and that is, why do bunnies lay eggs? We know that bunnies don't lay eggs, but there we have it, So apparently, we know that the word Easter comes from the goddess Estra. That's something we know. But apparently, does anybody know this story, by the way? No? Okay, good. Apparently, Estra saved a bird that was frozen and turned it into a rabbit. And the reason that rabbits lay eggs is because they were once birds. Phew. So glad that mystery is solved. Try explaining that to children Anyway, this is a Lollapalooza weekend. 7 of every 10 Americans are celebrating monotheistic religious holidays today. The Jewish Passover, the Christian Easter, and the Muslim Ramadan. Celebrations of liberation. Out of slavery comes freedom. Out of fasting and prayer comes a renewal of spiritual life. Out of death by crucifixion comes the hope of eternal life. The celebrations are sweetened because of the traditions honoring the stories that brought followers to new life. A harrowing escape from Egypt for Passover that, according to the Torah, took a week. 40 days in the desert for Easter, and a month when the Quran was revealed slowly, ending with El-Fitr. Eid-Fitr, excuse my Turkish. Many Unitarian Universalist congregations include Easter in their worship calendar. For some, it is a tradition going back to their beginnings. Montpelier, I think 1863, something like that. They built a church during the Civil War. Can you imagine? And it was a Universalist architect. I like to mention that. While Protestants and Catholics proclaim a faith in resurrection, it has many meanings to Unitarian Universalists. Belief that death is not the end lifts a great weight. I know that if we in this congregation shared with each other our thoughts about what happens when we die, there would be a variety of responses. A thoughtful friend shared with me recently that she believes that life is unstoppable We come into the body, we drop the body, the core of who we are is eternal, and spirit takes a new form. That's lovely. It's something like the law of conservation energy. Rich, don't listen carefully about this. When we die, Rich is a chemist, When we die, not a bit of us is gone. We're just less orderly. The collection of atoms of which we are composed, they will always be around. But they're repurposed. Let's put it that way. Therefore, our light, that is the essence of our energy, is not to be confused with our actual consciousness, will continue to echo throughout space until the end of time. I hope I got that right. He's not nodding. Well, I am an English major. To me, chemistry and physics are foreign languages. I like how the poet Billy Collins put it when he was asked if he believes in heaven. You want an afterlife too? Isn't this glorious enough? There will be many people missing from the religious holidays this week. Ashton Verdery, a sociologist at Pennsylvania State University, concludes that for every person who dies of COVID in the United States, there are almost 9 people in their immediate kinship group left bereaved. For the 4 million Americans who have lost a grandparent, and more than 2 million who are grieving the loss of a parent, 200,000 of those are children under 18. Many children will remember for the rest of their lives that they lost a grandparent in the pandemic. Death has us pretty well surrounded in this pandemic, in the invasion of Ukraine, the dangerous threat to life on this planet, the attacks on our democratic system, and the shifting of the global order. There's almost nothing we can call certainty, and this is on our minds daily. It can cause us to despair and never seeing our way to an inclusive, just, safe society and a healthy planet. James Baldwin discovered the light in darkness, saying, "That is what darkness is for. But everything in our lives depends on how we bear the light. It is necessary while in darkness to know that there is a light somewhere, to know that in oneself, waiting to be found, there is a light. To honor the million dead from the virus, to keep faith with all those we have lost, we need to return to living. Make of yourself a light." The recorded last words of the Buddha are thought to be closer to, "Let the Dharma and the discipline that I have taught you be your teacher. All individual things pass away. Strive on untiringly." Ada Limon gives us instructions on not giving up in this poem. It's the greening of the trees that really gets to me. The leaves come, patient, plodding, a green skin growing over whatever winter did to us. A return to the strange idea of continuous living despite the mess of us, the hurt, the empty. "Fine then, I'll take it," the tree seems to say, a new slick leaf unfurling like a fist to an open palm. "I'll take it all." After another winter in a pandemic, Easter is a marker of the return of spring, mud and all. Living in Vermont requires a tenacious, muscular hope that the trees will bud, new leaves unfurling like a fist to an open palm. As these branches around the sanctuary continue to bloom, they offer hope despite the evidence of the mess we are in. The trees don't give up. The leaves come. It's the leafing out of the maples outside my windows that really gets to me this year. The ducks in the ponds, the pollywogs in the spring streams, the tender green shoots under the layers of decaying leaves, life nourished by death. We must imagine new life coming to the land of Ukraine.
That's not
New
important.
life that will emerge from the bombed out homes, from the destroyed landscapes, the grieving to honor the mounds of nameless graves. Love, stronger than death, has the power to heal what is broken. Strive on untiringly. Despite the evidence of famine, poverty, destruction of the natural world, discrimination, and distrust wherever we look, I still believe we are making progress. Witness the careful work of the legislature this session to combat climate change and to make life more equitable for all Vermonters.
Peter, why can't I turn this
Don't
off?
hear enough about the good everywhere, here and around the globe, and so we lose hope. James Baldwin insisted that we must reach across the divides within and without, across the abysses of terror and suspicion.
We have to reach across the divide.
Generous and large-hearted trust in one another, which is at bottom trust in ourselves. He said, I have always felt that a human being could only be saved by another human being. I am aware that we do not save each other very often, but I am also aware that we save each other some of the time. Buddha instructs his followers to make of themselves a light. I wonder, where does that light come from? What is its source? For me, it comes from a resonance with the natural world, but it mainly comes from relationships with family, friends, and my faith community. Beloved community, we save each other. In April 2015, Archbishop Desmond Tutu and the Dalai Lama met in Dharamsala, India, to celebrate His Holiness's 80th birthday. Although they met only a half dozen times, the Dalai Lama and Tutu shared a bond that transcended these brief visits, and each considered the other his mischievous spiritual brother. During a week, they looked back on their long lives to answer this question: how do we find joy in the face of life's inevitable suffering? How do we find hope? Tutu spoke. It is good to remember that we have a fantastic capacity for goodness. You might not be able to do a great deal, but start where you are and do what you can where you are. And yes, be appalled. It would be awful if we looked on all that horrendousness and we said, it doesn't really matter. That's part of the greatness of who we are, that you are distressed about someone who is not family in any conventional way, and yet you feel distressed equally. There is a compassion that just springs up. It's incredible just how compassionate and generous people can be. And he said, hope is quite different from optimism. While optimism is based on ephemeral feelings, hope is based on the firm ground of conviction. Hope is not in your head, it's in here. It is the antidote to despair. It sends you into the arms of others. Hope is nurtured by relationship, by community. At times, we need to fall apart, to fail, to get back up, to be humbled by the beauty around us, to start over, to be a beginner in the ways of love, to continue with each other this journey of living. That is when beloved community is there with me, for me. And in quarantine these past 2 years, we never stop reaching out to one another, even if it is on a device where we can see each other's beautiful faces. Jesus taught his beloved community in the ways of love. Jesus belonged to a true race of prophets, said Ralph Waldo Emerson. He saw with open eye the mystery of the soul. He lived a life that brought people together as beloved community. To his disciples, he said, right up to his disappearance, love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as I have loved you. Go out into the world and share the gospel of a loving God and universal salvation. Easter comes around every year to celebrate the hope of this radical love when the darkness around us is deep. To know that in darkness there is a light somewhere, to know that in oneself, waiting to be found, there is a light. Let us recognize that light in one another. Be that light for one another in this beloved community, and let us be bringers of light to the world. Blessed be. Now we are going to sing let's see, I guess you're going to see it here. And if you're in your hymnals, it is 368. But if you don't get it in your hymnals, and don't have to hold the book and you can see the words, then we can really be present with each other. But do what you need to do. Yeah. clouds, but they're still blue. It's just glorious. It's just glorious. There is too much beauty in this world to give up on it yet, and it is always too soon to surrender to cynicism. Let us steady ourselves, keepers of hope, brave builders of this still possible world. I love you.